and I thought that with the gifts that Arthur's kind of enumerated, that he really had something to offer. He had these amazing songs. He had written quite a few when I met him. And the things he talked about and the things he was interested in, it was all about enlightenment. And I thought that here was somebody who was seriously interested in this, and our life together would be a path of adventure and intellectual adventure and spiritual adventure. And so that was really my main interest in Arthur. And that's been true. There has been a lot of intellectual adventure, a lot of spiritual adventure, but it seems like
also a lot of worldly adventure.
Also a lot of worldly adventure. But it seems like that when it really comes down to it, Arthur has refused to move very far spiritually. And
this is so great.
The
I'm so
more
glad we're doing
I
this.
have, and at a certain point, and for a long time in our relationship, because when we met, he seemed so further. I mean, he was much further in understanding of spiritual things than I was. I was basically unknowledgeable. That, I worshiped him in that way, and he was the boss. He's the one that was on top and knew the answers and led the way. And I was always just sort of a follower. And that went on for a long time, 20 years.
As long as I could milk it.
At a certain point, which is, I've talked a little bit before about how about 10 years ago, I started kind of waking up and had some profound realizations that it was like, okay, you're unhappy with your life, and maybe it's because of the path you're following, and maybe if you keep following this path, I don't think anything's going to change, And if you really say you want happiness, maybe you need to start questioning some of the premises that have led you along this path you're on. So I started doing that. And one of those questions was, does Arthur really want the things he says he wants?
Good question.
Because I was so, awed by him for so long that I just took it for granted that he really wanted what he said he wanted. But it just started thinking, well, but there's always some excuse for why it doesn't happen. And so I started striking off on my own and just not having my spiritual life or path depend on Arthur. And not that I have a very spiritual life. I'm not going to say that. It's kind of gone up and down over the last 10 years. And right now I'd say I'm kind of in an off phase of it in terms of it being an active a pursuit. But in some ways, though, and this is something that has been kind of tough for Arthur and I also, is that we're both real intellectuals, if you haven't got that already. We really like the products of the mind. We like thinking about things. And one of the results of that is that we're both really opposed to the idea of a guru, of following somebody else or following somebody else's program. Because I just never in my life have I been willing to do that. I did ask after meeting Arthur. It's not that I haven't taken a class or done a program, but I've never been a follower, because it seemed to me that trusting in someone else, if they've made an error, well then you're following in their error, and you could end up spending your whole life following some and then
what I'm laughing at is like the presumption, because I'm exactly the same way. The presumption is we're error free.
No, that's not.
Really,
really.
When you think about it, we're walking basket cases compared to.
I was like, I'm going to make my own errors.
Yeah,
I think is what I really
yeah.
mean. I understand what you're saying, right? But it's like I'll make my own errors. Thank you. I'm not going to follow somebody else's errors. And I wasn't, but in some ways it's harder not following a guru, because just like you're out here on your own, and
no
you have
accountability.
Right. And it's easier to delude yourself that the things are going well. It's easier to be indulgent because there's no, like you say, accountability.
And you read things like Sri Rajneesh, who collected Rolls Royces.
That's the kind of thing I'm talking about.
Everybody could bang everybody or have relations with each
Yeah,
other.
we spent some time sharing a house, just a very brief week or something, with some followers of Rajneesh, and they took themselves so seriously. This is before the whole expose came about. They were so together, so spiritual, and Arthur and I were such heathens. You know,
Well, they didn't do their share of the dishes.
No.
They were slobs.
they were
By
so
their deeds you will know them.
yeah. So
It applies in so many ways, Christians.
and really, so that's what I was getting to. Thank you. Was that for me? My spirituality is a very practical spirituality. It is things like that, doing the dishes. How do I live my everyday? How do I behave towards the person that, the teller at the bank that I go to today, to the clerk at the post office? Am I loving that person? Am I open to them? Or am I shielding myself off? Am I hating life? Am I angry because I had to wait in line? Oh, wow, my life is so important, more important than all these other people. I shouldn't have to wait in line for anything. So, how am I acting in every moment? To me, that is my spirituality. And I fall short, very short, of what I think I should be able to do in every day. But to me, that's where it really matters, is not going to some place on once a week or something and meditating, or even meditating once a day and then going out and just being a jerk all day long and
She said, looking
separating him out. It's how I act in every moment that's what counts. And it's coming from that acceptance.
I have a burning question. Will you want to go with that?
That's
Keep
okay.
going?
No, that's all right. I've said enough for right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, my question is, okay, obviously, I'm the kind of person, I write songs like, bend like a willow, Katie gave me the idea for, which means bend like a willow in the wind, or when the snow's falling on it and piling it down, the branches bend over and the snow falls off and it springs back. You flow with the way it is. If the wind is harsh, you bend in the wind and you give to it. And you survive. Where a pine that's stiff and rigid, it has to be my way, snaps like a toothpick. So I wrote a song about it. What's the last verse that it seems particularly relevant right now? More than once, this is me talking, babies. More than once I've raised my fist and shook it at the sky, cursed this path of seeking out the wherefore and the why, longing for the dawn while clinging to the starless night, girding for the battle and then running from the fight. Life is like the wind. It's sometimes gentle, sometimes rough. And anytime I hate the way it is, well, that's just tough. When I can allow what is to be, I found the way. When I can embrace the now, I rise above the fray. I've got to bend like a willow in the wind that's blowing free. I've got to bow to the current that we call reality. I write songs like that, and I bitch and complain and whine and am miserable about life not going my way constantly. Mm-hmm. So the question I had for you was, in the times that you forget your spirituality, mm-hmm. which, a woman is always so much more balanced and sane. It's like a great advantage to, just ding.
Yes.
That's a halo. It's supposed to be a halo. Ding.
Yes.
The savage grunting, yelling,
so
bellowing
what he's
male.
saying here is don't, take what I say with a grain of salt.
No, not at all. I'm saying that you yourself said there are moments. There are times when you're
every day, yeah,
okay,
quite a few, quite a lot.
Well, I'm just saying, in the moments that you feel really out of touch spiritually, even though it may not look like a bellowing bull elephant having a temper tantrum in the jungle.
Yeah.
What would you call that state? I think that's really a nifty way of holding it, because this is really what our whole work is about.
Well, it's
what
the
our new book is about.
It's. You could always say it's non-acceptance of the way it is, non-acceptance of reality, which we say is insanity.
Insanity,
when I do
not insanity,
and when I confuse my mind-generated reality the way it should be with the way it is.
Objective reality. What's happening right now in the physical universe? That car really almost hit you. Now, do you do a U-turn and get your Glock out of the glove compartment and chase him down and shoot him? Or have that fantasy? Or obviously that thought came from somewhere. And I almost got hit with a head-on yesterday. Some woman was was texting or yakking on a cell phone or something ridiculous.
Well,
America's newest toys.
So, yeah, like I gave the example of being in the line at the post office. I think that I should not have to wait. I think my life is more important than having to wait 5 minutes at the post office. So I often get irritable and cranky when I'm standing in line. So, and then...
I rave and rant. She gets cranky.
So
what we're
doesn't
saying
matter.
is, this is what any state of dissatisfaction, boredom, irritation, impatience, depression. What else? Certainly anger, fear,
Anxiety.
anxiety, worry, insanity. It's always insanity. It's a rejection of the way it is right now. It's taking out your stamp and saying, rejected, not good enough.